Hello, everyone. Welcome to Stories That Shape Us. My name is Joanna Daniel. So, as you know, I like to do series on the podcast, and we've just completed how to heal from spiritual trauma and not let go of your faith. So, if you have not listened to or seen on YouTube that series, I'm going to invite you to go back on, a couple of videos, and you'll find those, and on wherever you're listening to the podcast in audio form, you'll find that series as well, how to heal from religious trauma and hold on to your faith. A couple of weeks ago, I did a rejection series, and there's so much more to come out of the rejection series due to questions that I've been asked, due to comments that I have, and things that people have said to me personally, that I know there's more to unpack. So I'm going to unpack that in a special series around rejection and abandonment, just rejection rather. What I'm going to do is to connect it to Bible scriptures, not necessarily scriptures, but specific people that I've seen dealt with abandonment and rejection, and some of the things that we can learn from them. Some of the ways that they dealt with it. And of course, we know that they're not perfect. So they made some mistakes. They did some things that perhaps we wouldn't have done. But sometimes the Bible characters are painted in a perfect picture. And we want to show that not their imperfections, but things that they did that we can learn from, and how we can use their life as a space to grow as well. So this week I'm doing abandonment, and this is inspired mostly by I do an inner child healing group, coaching group, and we have two different groups because I keep the group small, only 3 people, because the work is we go so deep, we have to unpack a lot of stuff, right? And so I'm in one group, we're in what week? 12. We're going to be in week 12. It's the final week in one group. So we meet 12 weeks. It's 2 hours mostly each time, hour and a half, 2 hours for per week. The next group is starting on the 23rd of February. So if you'd like to be a part of that, then you can send me an email with the email with the email connected to wherever you're listening to this podcast. You can send me an email to be one of those 3 people. It's only 3 people in the groups. So this series is inspired by the work that we were doing in this inner child healing coaching group, because I realized that we can deal with big themes like sexual trauma. And I do work around sexual trauma. We do have groups for that as well. But often the deeper wound is abandonment. And so what is it? How do you heal? How does it show up? How do you deal with it when it show up? Now, I'm going to do the videos here. Some of these videos, along with worksheets, are going to be posted in our special healing school. And again, I'm going to put the link for that below the video. So if you want to watch the video, if you want to listen to the podcast, and you want to follow along with the worksheet, and you want to do the reflection sheets that are going to accompany this, then, everything, all the details that you need will be below this video or in the description of the podcast. So what is abandonment? When does abandonment occur? When does abandonment occur? And what I want you to know is that there's layers to abandonment. So I'm going to look at all the layers. I'm going to look at the spiritual layer. I'm going to look at the financial implication, the cultural piece, the professional piece, and the social piece, right? And I'm going to look at, of course, there are many other layers to abandonment. And I'm going to unpack some of those layers with worksheet, because we can't do everything here. I try to keep this audio and this video like about 10 minutes, 15 at the most. So abandonment sometimes abandonment is often connected to issues of emotional neglect and parents that were emotionally unavailable. Sometimes physical abandonment, sometimes emotional abandonment where the parents was emotionally unavailable, sometimes emotional neglect, sometimes emotional abuse. All of those areas abandonment is connected to. And I just want to touch on the cultural piece sometimes, because sometimes you might not have physical abuse, but because of culture, the emotional abandonment, the emotional unavailability of parents can run so deep. So let's think about, for example, your parents of immigrants who moved to a country. So I'm in the UK. So you moved to the UK and your parents are busy trying to establish themselves, trying to make a life. But while they were doing that, they didn't have capacity, they didn't have availability. You did not get your parents, they weren't available to you. So whatever was going on for you, your own adjustment in schools, your own adjustment in the community, your own adjustment at church, your own adjustment in a new country, nobody was there to talk you through those adjustment processes or to help you to talk through what it felt like to be bullied at school and to be laughed at or to be talked about, to help you understand the difference in language, and not only language in the sense that you speak English, they do, but words mean different things. So because they were busy, nobody helps you with the transition that you needed to make. And not another thing that migration might impact is you were left and then you join, and so you were physically abandoned. But when you join the family, the emotional abandonment occur where they're busy, they don't have time. And so again, once again, you're on your own, adjusting to a new area and a new family where everybody knows each other and nobody knows you. And so you're experiencing that in real time in a space that is supposed to be safe. Sometimes we do it, you were born here, so was your parents, but they are busy making a life, making a living, or they don't know how to talk to you. Nobody talked to them, and so they don't know how to have conversation with you. Some people don't know don't know how to have conversations with children. They think it's go do your homework, here's your dinner, have you gone, what did your teacher say, how come you got a C, why not a, and that's talking too. So mostly your task, they give you tasks to go and do. Your turn to clean the kitchen, go and iron your clothes, have you washed, is your room tidy, go collect the mail, go to the shop. It's all of that, but it's not, there's no living with you. They live for you by working and providing a roof and clothing, but they didn't know how to live with you. And not being lived with leave you with that sense of abandonment, right? So there's that. So I want to look at some signs of abandonment for you that you can know that, okay, so this is abandonment and these are the things that I need to do. Because when we experience abandonment, because we learn there is no emotional availability, therefore we have insecure attachment. And so we tell ourselves a lot of stuff. There's so many misbeliefs that you'll have to unpack if you know that you've experienced abandonment. So that's why I'm spending this time on it, because I want you to learn and understand it so you know how to unpack it. So here are some signs. We worry people will leave. Do you worry people might leave you? Because when we worry people will leave, what we will do is make sure they do. And how do we do that? There's so many ways that we sabotage relationships. We make sure people leave because in our mind, nobody stays. Okay? We constantly change ourselves to please others. So we worry that they will leave. And because we worry that they will leave, we think we have to change and adjust who we are to please the room that we're in. And that's not sustainable, friends. That's exhausting. It's not sustainable. It's a guaranteed way for people to leave anyway, because what they want to do is just to meet the real you. But you have to meet the real you first before you can introduce them to anybody. But if you feel like people will leave because people left early in life, emotionally and physically, then it confirms for you, maybe this part of the story that you tell yourself is that people are going to leave and it must be my fault. So let me become who I think they want me to be so they will stay. And then in that way, you don't get to know you. So part of your work is to get to know you. Who are you? Get to know and be with that person and be okay with her and him and love yourself, right? You neglect self to please others is another sign. Another big sign is lack of boundaries. And I did a whole 2-week series on boundaries. Lack of boundaries, even to your own detriment. You're exhausted, but you don't have any boundaries, so you keep going. Okay. And the last one I want to talk about is an inability to express needs, to know what they are, to understand them and to express them and to ask for them to be met. So those are some of the signs that abandonment has happened for you. And what we're going to do over the course of the week is to unpack each one, to talk through them, and to give you some tools via the healing school to be able to reflect, some reflective exercises, so you can journal, so you can understand it for yourself, so you can begin to shift, move forward, heal, and grow. Thank you for joining me in this episode of Stories That Shape Us. I hope you'll join me on the next story.